Hi there, and welcome back to Class 4 at a Masterclass. This is a mini version of an actual masterclass that I like to give. I give to professional speakers and public speakers, leaders, executives alike. The class always ends in a group performance on the stage where they get to perform a poem that I have enclosed here at the end of this program for you. I give you permission to perform this poem around the world. It's written by my late younger brother, Sean Kennedy. It was recorded by him for the radio television in Ireland in 1983. I use it not because he's my little brother, but because he was brilliant with words. He had perfect pitch. He was a musician extraordinaire, and he loved language. He spoke 7 languages, and he wrote this poem as a young man. He had fallen in love with a young Russian girl, and they were on their way to Tel Aviv, and he had this dream. It's a beautiful poem because of the language he uses. And throughout this class, throughout this master class, I want to share with you what I call secrets of the trade, tricks of the trade that I learned as a broadcast journalist student when I was studying at the National Institute of Broadcasting in the early 1990s in Toronto. I had studied elocution most of my life, but the broadcast journalism class and the TV and radio announcing especially, I loved because I loved the art of voice. And I really excelled and I studied hard because I was fascinated by communicating without the help, you could say, of nonverbal cues like body language. I was very, very fortunate that I had a teacher, the late Jay Nelson, who at that time was a very, very well known radio host in Toronto. And he was a brilliant man. And I remember him one day in class trying to drive home to us how important it is to speak in pictures, especially if you are a voice artist. You have to create pictures because he said, and I think he's right, that he said to us, if don't think of a table, and of course what you do right away, you see a table. And he would say, of course, you have to see the table because you have to understand visually in your mind's eye here what it is that you just heard. You have to see it in order to understand it. And I've never forgotten that. And I loved radio for that because my job as a radio announcer is to use language, words and language and voice that created images for the people driving in their cars or sitting wherever they were listening to the radio. So, two of the things that I want to share with you are in this program. They're very closely connected. The first one is, you think of when you're riding in the car and you hear the news announcer. And they start out telling you a very terrible story. They always start the news with the terrible stories. 300 children were killed today. And the way that the news announcer does that is they put the look in their face. They're not smiling. 300 children were killed today. And as they go on to the end of the news broadcast where they're talking about Mrs. Smith's cat up the tree, now they're smiling. But they would never start saying 300 children were killed today because it totally, totally changes the sound of the voice and the meaning, the message that they're trying to convey. So one thing that radio people know, perhaps more than any of the other vocal artists, is you have to put the look in your eyes and in your face. And that takes us to the second thing I want you to know, that the moment you do that, you become authentic. And the moment you become authentic, you breathe right into your diaphragm. And that's where all voice comes from. And that's where all breath comes from. And so now all of a sudden, when you put the look that you want to convey in your face, your breathing is taken care of. But the other thing that's amazing, all of a sudden, when you begin to say words the way they are meant to be said, and you do that by putting the look, the meaning of the word in your face, as soon as you say the word that way, it carries energy. It's no longer just 7% of your message. It is actually now carrying some vibration, some weight, some meaning. You're going to learn that. So the two things, look the way you want to feel And then immediately the breath is going to go down into what we call the seat of the voice, the diaphragm. I'm drinking water because this program, you should have water, especially as you do these exercises, because they're throwing the voice quite a bit. Excuse me, thank you. Now, let's take a look at these words on this page. I'm not going to read them all. The video would go on for hours. But I'm going to read some of them, and then I'm going to leave you on your own because you have to explore this. You have to experience it. It can't just be repeat after me. I already know how to say them. I want you to find your true, authentic voice. And you do that by saying the words the way they mean and putting your face and your energy into them. Now, if you are an international speaker of English and you don't know what the words are, dictionary.com is the pronunciation that I'm using. That's the standard North American pronunciation that I'm using. So if you don't know what the word means, go and find out what the word means so that then you can say the word the way the word is meant to mean. Now, the first word, shiver. I'm a Canadian. Now, we don't shiver much here in Vancouver because we live in a rainforest. But I grew up in Edmonton, in Alberta, in northern Alberta. Oh my goodness. Yes, it's true. We did have to walk to school at 40 below Celsius weather in the winter. And I'm telling you, the only thing you saw were our eyes because everything was covered in wool and skins and everything to keep us warm. But we shivered. We could hardly say the word shiver. We were so cold. So if you are shivering, you are not going to say we were shivering. Because if you say we were shivering, I'm going to say, no, you weren't. Because that's not what the word means. Shivering. Now, that's a slight exaggeration, but if I'm going to tell you that I was shivering, I'm going, look at my face, look at my eyes, shivering. I can't say shivering. It's not the word. That's what I mean. Put the look in your eyes. Now let's look at the next word, fragrant. See, I think of a frangipani. It's my favorite flower because I think it is fragrant. It's fragrant. I close my eyes, I dream, I bring my olfactory senses in, I imagine. Fragrant. A rose is pretty fragrant. It's not, the new roses aren't made like the old roses. The old roses were fragrant. Say the words they mean the way they meant to be said so that they have meaning. Now, if you bake me a nice chocolate cake and you bring it to me and I say, well, that was delicious, I think your feelings would be hurt. You want me to say, that was delicious. You really want me to say, that was delicious. Then you know I like it. Then you know I'm being honest. I'm just saying it. But delicious is I'm lying. If it's delicious, I'm not going to say it's delicious. If it's delicious, I've got to say the word deliciously. Next one, brittle. So many times when we have two T's together, we take them to go a kind of D. We don't want to be going brittle, but we're not doing that. But we have to keep the T's in there. Listen carefully. Brittle. Because brittle, it snaps quickly. The old man's bones were brittle. Not brittle. Brittle's not brittle. It's not brittle. Brittle is too relaxed. Brittle. Now the word grim. When something is grim, it's not good. You can't say grim. Unless you're being facetious, you can't say, oh, it was really grim. No, it was really grim. Oh my gosh, it was so grim. I saw an accident on the highway. It was grim. You've got to say it the way it means. Now, what about the word ringing? I'm so glad with the cell phones we have these new ringtones because I don't like the sound of a ringing phone. Ringing is a sound that gets on my nerves. The only ringing I like are the church bells that ring on Sunday morning just down the street. That's a ringing. But a phone is a ringing. Say it, try it different ways. What do you mean when you say that word? Let's look at interesting. Interesting is different. It's more intense than interesting. Well, that's interesting. It's interesting. I might try that one day. Different levels. So we say them with different intensity. Words have vibration. Don't rob them of their vibration, the poor dears. They're only worth 7% of what it is you're trying to say. Help them out. Help them pop. Have your audience feel what you're saying. Your job as a speaker is not to feel the feelings. It's not to emote. God forbid. No, don't be. You don't be up there weeping. Weeping. That's what the next word. One of the words. Weeping. Weep. But you don't want to be weeping yourself. But you want to be conveying the emotion. So you have to say weeping. The old woman sat weeping, mourning the death of her husband. Weeping. That's how you're going to say it. Otherwise, she was crying. Maybe she was sobbing. Just sobbing is different than weeping. Say these words. Look at that word thunder. That's a great word. We named a god, Thor, after thunder because we were so afraid of thunder. The thunder. Thunder. We hold that TH. Thunder. So go through these words. Wonderful. Oh, it was just wonderful. You can't help but say it without including your face. Otherwise, you're not being authentic. It was wonderful. It wasn't wonderful. If it was wonderful, say wonderful. Don't say wonderful. Okay, practice them. If you don't know what they mean, look them up. Now, the same goes for these expressions like smooth as silk. Smooth as silk is not smooth as silk. Smooth. How can you possibly say the word smooth short? It's against the rules. It doesn't mean short. Smooth. It's a word that requires to be savored. Smooth. What about free as a bird? Free. Your face automatically, your arms go. You can't say free as a bird sitting on your hands. If you're going to say free as a bird, you think about what does it mean. Imagine what it would be to be free as a bird. And then you say it that way. It was brilliantly colored. Freezing cold. I'm not acting. I'm saying these words with the meaning that they are begging us to give them. Bring back the music, dear student. Bring back the emotion. I'm not being sing-songy. If I were to say, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. I mean, if I just won, the lottery tonight in Canada is 50 million tax-free. I'd probably say, well, wow, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. But if I lost 50 million, I'd probably say, oh my God, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. We change the intonation altogether. You must put the feeling in your face if you want your voice to say the words the way they're meant to be said. If you want those words to go from 0 or from 7% up, put some energy to them. If you want your body language to be true to your words, say the words they are meant to be said. In other words, put the look in your face and your eyes, your voice, your body, the whole kit and caboodle will follow you. And the people at the back of the room who paid also to come to hear you speak will get value for their money. And that's your job, is to provide value. Honor them. They come out to listen to you. They give up their life to come listen to you. You must present them with your best. You must give the words energy. You must speak from your soul. Now, this spoken word performance piece is in fact a piece I give you all permission to use. I've discussed this with my sister, my only living remaining relative of my brother, and we have decided it is fine for you to take this piece and take it into the world. Our little brother Sean recorded this for the radio television, as I said, in 1983. I choose it not because it's my brother, but because of the language. And because now that you have practiced putting the feeling in your eyes, and now that you've been practicing breathing and rhythm and elocution, let's put the cherry on the icing on the cake by performing this wonderful piece. Now, I would like, if you want, just sit back, let the words come over you, and then when you are ready, I want you to practice it yourself. I will take another drink of water to keep my whistle wet as I do this piece for you. Excuse me, please. We always end the master class with 25 executives or whoever on the stage performing. And sometimes after, men and women come up to me with tears in their eyes and they say, I never knew I could perform a spoken word piece on the stage. And you can. Put the feeling in your eyes. Let's go. Sit back, listen, and away we go. I read about people living in caves. I read about people living in caves on the shores of the Aegean Sea. Their way of existence appeals to me, and buried beneath the rocks of years, my spirit twitched its eager ears. I climbed into my morning bath with water hot and bubbles green, and lay submerged and soaking, to dream of caves I'd seen on the way to Tel Aviv. I looked upon with wistful eye, while thinking how I'd love to try. These rays would shriek, the Knesset would speak, I'd be an event and live without rent. People driving their stinking cars would stop, get out, point, and stare at me living there, enjoying the view. The sea by day, at night, the stars. I'd hang a mobile as a curtain door. I'd spread a rug upon the earthen floor. I'd spend all my spare time cultivating the knack of walking while carrying a jug upon my head. Eat my daily bread and live without talking. Now go ahead and practice this piece. Practice this bonus module. Practice this whole video workbook that you have invested in. We have only just touched the iceberg. There's so much work, of course, to be done in voice. Should you want to carry on or want any more information, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me. You can find me through the website. You'll be able to contact me. Kennedy Communication Studio is the name, www.communicatesuccess.com. I want to thank you for taking the time to first purchase this product and to take the time to actually get to the final class. Good for you. Pat yourself on the back. I want to encourage you, I implore you, please bring the music back into your language if you are a native speaker. And if you are a foreign or international speaker of language, dare yourself to play around with our rhythm patterns, the intonation patterns. Imitate me. Record what I have done and record what you have done. And get analytical. Use your critical thinking skills, not your criticizing skills, but your analytical critical thinking skills. And compare what you hear me say with what you hear you are saying. Work hard. Have fun. Speak from your heart. Say the words the way they are meant to be said. Speak to everyone in the room. Thank you very much. I wish you all the best in your success as a leader, a speaker, or a want-to-be leader and speaker. Follow your heart. Speak up. Speak well. Bye now.